everybody, and welcome to This Woman Can. I am your host, Janice Sutherland, where it is my passion to help women on their leadership journeys, create impactful careers, and have more wins in their life. And we are continuing our conversation with women in the environmental industries across the whole gamut. And my guest this week is Derval Barzey. She is an environmental management professional with experience spanning the industrial and regulatory side of the Trinidad and Tobago energy sector. Her vast expertise includes risk management, environmental impact assessments, stakeholder engagement, and sustainable energy policy and project development. She's also the founder of the Climate Conscious, a consultancy service which seeks to connect individuals and organizations to sustainability solutions. She hosts and produces the Climate Conscious podcast, promoting climate action and sustainable development from a Caribbean perspective. And she's also a member of the Clinton's Foundation's Women in Renewable Energy Network and a climate reality leader. Now, Derval, I've not heard that phrase, a climate reality leader. So I'm going to ask you about that as we get into the conversation. But before we do, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Hi, Janice, and hi to your listeners. And thank you for inviting me on This Woman Can. So a bit about my journey. I am born and bred in Trinidad and Tobago. Spent all my life here in this slice of paradise. And I studied environmental and natural resource management, coupled with agribusiness as a double major at the University of the West Indies. And I was fortunate enough to graduating with my bachelor's, I entered an internship program at the then state-owned oil and gas company. And that's where I got into environmental risk management, but particularly in the energy sector. And that was pretty exciting. And I think I owe a lot of my professional and also personal development to that opportunity. So it was a 2-year internship in a very male-dominated environment. And I guess we'll get a bit more into that as the conversation
we're going
proceeds. But so that's where I got hands-on experience bridging what I learned in the classroom and in the lab to the real world. And following that 2-year internship, I was retained as a professional in the same field, HSE field, health, safety, and environment, for a period of 3 years on contract until so I spent a total of 5 years there until my contract was not renewed. So that was a big moment in my life, my trajectory kind of came to an abrupt halt. But prior to that, I had started my master's doing an MBA that focused on sustainable energy management at the energy sector, in addition to the conventional oil and gas, but also incorporated new energy such as renewables, solar, wind, energy efficiency. So I know it seemed a bit weird at the time, coming from that conventional energy space and venturing into sustainable energy. But I was very intrigued by the potential for that to assist with managing the environmental impact of energy as a whole. So I was doing my master's and then wondering what would be my next step. Honestly devastated, but and then I joined the Ministry of Energy, where I got experience in sustainable energy from the policy side.
Right.
So at the point in time, the country was trying to make that shift as the rest of the global community was doing, shifting away, transitioning from dirty fossil fuels to sustainable alternatives. So there I got exposed to the various aspects of, developing policy and also raising awareness, since we were so entrenched as a country in oil and gas.
Yeah.
And so I'm currently at the ministry, but in a slightly different role. I've kind of gone full circle back to my environmental core, but definitely with a major interest in sustainability, which has led me to start my podcast and consultancy in terms of assisting us in making that transition.
Right.
And also recognizing that although the global community is promoting this shift, from a Caribbean perspective, we have a unique context that I think we need to make known, and we need to be mindful when we're making certain decisions about the changes that we want to make in our, whether the national, regional, or community level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay. I was going to say, as a question for there, what does sustainability in the Caribbean mean? What does it look like?
An excellent question. And for me, that is a question that we all should be asking. I think that we are writing that script.
Right.
And my role is as a facilitator to help us, to get us thinking about that. What do we want it to look like? And it's not about taking some prescription that is given to us by the international community, but really deciding, what does Caribbean sustainability look like? And I think that we have a lot of the elements already that we may not be mindful of. We may have actually moved away from those elements in pursuit of a model of development that we have now recognized as unsustainable.
Right.
So at this point, when we're trying to shift towards that sustainable development pathway, yes, there are some international frameworks. We look at the sustainable development goals, but what does that mean for you and I as Caribbean people? And I know I'm throwing back the question to you, but my role is my role is really to get us thinking about it. For me, it's allowing us to enjoy a standard of living that we're comfortable with, but also existing in harmony with our natural ecosystems, which are so valuable for us, and also provide, they provide economic activity and economic returns. So therefore, we need to maintain that delicate balance between, what we derive from it and how we interact with it.
Right, right. So I can see it's going to be an ongoing discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. Fabulous. Thank you for that. So let me get back on track. Talking about you, Derval. Can you describe? I know you talked earlier about losing, your contract not being renewed and stuff, and the shock that was. But can you describe one of your biggest challenges that you faced, and how you overcame it, and the lessons you learned, and hopefully that contributed to greater success?
Sure. So as I mentioned, as a young female university graduate entering this very masculine space, one of the main challenges that I encountered throughout that experience was the people trying to place you in this box.
Yes.
And so I studied environmental management because I always had an interest in, I would say, our interactions with the environment and helping to protect it, or not necessarily preserve, because we do have an impact, but managing those impacts, right?
Yeah.
And people felt, I would say certain persons felt that as a young woman, your place was in the office. And in the office, in a administrative type of role, as opposed to being out in the field, where you can actually have an impact, where you're actually able to do your work and assist the others who are in the field. So there's always this, I would say, this struggle where you have to prove yourself, and to do so you had to you weren't given a fair chance at the start. You always
Right.
having to prove yourself twice as much as the other gender.
Mm. Mm.
So I think, encountering those limits that other persons placed on you just by the way that you looked or your anatomy, it made it a bit more difficult. But I guess that built my resilience bone, and it allowed me to develop, strengths that I guess they were lying dormant. They were there. They were there, but not really active. And I
Yeah.
had to really dig deep within to really face those challenges and move forward, because I think, not everyone would come out of that.
Mm.
Um, I guess come out on the other side.
Yes.
There
Yeah.
were moments of doubt, and there were moments of, feeling down about it. But I was able to push through, and I would say that even though there were those who were unsupportive, and I think that was one of the challenges, feeling unsupported
Right.
in
Right.
space. And I did meet persons along the way that assisted me
Right.
in moving forward,
Yeah.
and who provided a better coaching, informally provided a
Mm.
better coaching and mentorship, which was something that was sorely lacking for young, I would say for young graduates, and particularly for young female graduates.
Right. Right.
And as my career has progressed, I've been able to find that. I am currently as a member of the Clinton Climate Foundation. They have the Women in Renewable Energy Network,
Right.
which offers mentorship and professional development opportunities for women in the energy space.
Okay.
But back then, this was about 10 years ago, that didn't exist. And even with the other women in the space, there was a sense of antagonism as opposed to camaraderie
Right.
and that community. The
Yeah.
community wasn't really there. So
Yeah.
you kind of encountered, I would say at that point, I was looking for mentorship, although I may not have framed it in that
Mm.
way. I was looking for that guidance. I was looking
Mm.
for that, the hand of someone who went before.
Right. 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 So what
And
I'm
it was, mhm.
I was gonna say, so what I'm hearing there from the, not only did you have to deal with the male counterparts, we also have this like there's the only room at the top for one woman type of thing happening, and that you weren't getting the support from the other women who are in the field also.
I encountered some of that, yes. And
Yeah.
I don't want it to be mistaken that they were all that way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you met with some resistance from, I guess, from both genders.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I guess understandably that in that environment, those who would have gone before me have encountered similar struggles,
Mm.
and maybe
Mm.
have built up that hard shell as a coping mechanism.
Right. Right.
So I guess in hindsight, I could be a bit more compassionate about the experiences.
So Derval, if you had to share or give one tip to another young woman entering a male-dominated space, what would you advise? What tip would you share?
I would say that you have to have a certain level of confidence in who you are and what you know.
Right.
And so having that baseline of, I should be here.
Mm.
I have a right to be here, and I have a certain level of competence, and I'm also here to learn.
Right.
So starting with that baseline of, I think, a bit of self-assurance
Right.
that will be shaken undoubtedly, but that's a good place to start. And I think you will find persons who can assist you,
Right.
and a mentor or a coach doesn't have to be an official arrangement, but there may be someone in the organization that you can observe or that you can interact with that can assist you in moving forward. And I think that your work speaks for you. So always focus on delivering quality work,
Right.
even despite whatever challenges that you encounter around the way. They can't discredit the quality of your work.
Right. Right. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for that. So can you share with us how failure has made a positive difference in your life?
Right. I think the more you fail, I know that sounds a bit weird, but you become a bit more comfortable with failure. And I know that is a weird statement, but what I mean by that is you will fail at some point. And if you are completely afraid of failure, you also will not reach greatness.
Yeah.
Because you'll be afraid of stepping out and doing something different or, taking a risk. So I would say failure has allowed me to pivot or to kind of to dig deep because it allows you to change course, and sometimes it's involuntary, but at the end of it, it actually you end up where you are supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I think, there's this saying that it's never a loss, it's a lesson. And as cliche as it sounds, it is so true. So I think as you move along your trajectory in life and in the professional space, you become a bit more okay with encountering failures. I'll say failures.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you try your best not to be in that space, but it happens, and then you just look for the lessons. What did I learn in this situation? What could I have done differently? What will I take with me going forward? So that's my approach to failure.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So Derval, if you had to start over from scratch, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
Wow, that's a big question. What will I have done differently? You see, changing anything would completely change the entire outcome of my life, I think.
Okay.
And what would I have done differently? I think I would have been a bit more outspoken at first. It took me a while to find my voice and to find that self-confidence and that self-confidence. It took a while for that to develop. So sometimes I look back on some situations and I was like, I would have tell off that person, if or something like that. I would have been a bit more outspoken, and I would have been more of a self advocate, which I have learned to become through the experiences, and I guess experiences teach you that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I would do differently. And I think I said yes to a lot of opportunities, even though I was afraid. So I don't really look back with much regrets on the way things turned out. I see the way that everything shaped me, every experience, good or bad.
Fabulous, fabulous. Now you touched on a couple of things there. So you talked about having the confidence to talk up, but the other thing you really took, which I'm very hot on, is self-advocacy. Yeah. And for the people for our listeners and stuff like that may not understand what self-advocacy means. Could you, in your words, describe what it is and how you self-advocate?
Right. A good example of that, to illustrate it, I think when we look at the men have the boys club, and they have these networks that really support them. And I mentioned earlier about feeling unsupported.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to seek out opportunities that can assist you. You have an idea of where you would like to go, and encountering challenges, encountering obstacles, you might be tempted to just give up or to minimize yourself because circumstances or people are telling you no, right? But I think let those no's or those obstacles kind of fuel you to find another way. Be creative and be resilient. You have to bounce back from all those, negative encounters or obstacles or the so-called glass ceiling. So being a self-advocate for me is always coming back to that belief in yourself, that appreciation for your ability, and also that the vision that you have for yourself. And if it means coming back to the drawing board and strategizing of how you can achieve your goals, I think it's always coming back to that belief that you're able, you're capable, and there must be a way.
Yeah, yeah. And I think added to that is, yes, you're capable, but you actually have to feel comfortable telling people that you are capable. Because
Yes.
knowing that you are, and putting it down on paper and having a great plan, if nobody knows about it, it's not going to get you anywhere. So I think for me, to add to that for self-advocacy, is get comfortable talking about how good you are at what you do, which women, we struggle with at times. Really do
Yes,
struggle.
we
We really
do.
do struggle with putting ourselves out and say, look, I'm good at this. This is what I do, and you need to consider me, or you need me. Not even consider. You need me.
Yes, see yourself as an asset, and recognizing yourself as an asset, because we all have our strengths,
Yes.
and we knowing what you bring to the table, and as you said, not
Absolutely.
being afraid
Yeah.
to articulate it.
Yeah.
And yes, I think growing up, you're taught that little girls must be seen and not heard.
Yes.
But at times, you have to be heard. You have to make yourself seen and heard.
Yeah.
And it's not about doing that in a very negative way, but it's about asserting yourself in spaces where you believe that you belong.
Yeah. And we're often told that it's unseemly, for a better word, to talk about how good you are. I'm like, but if I
But
don't do
men
it,
do it all the time.
exactly. And if I don't do it, I know my story better than anybody else. So why would I want to delegate that to somebody? I want to tell you and give you the opportunity to hear it from me and ask me the questions, just to sense check. Is she for real? Yeah, I am, so I want to give you that opportunity. So, but that, as you said, comes with confidence. Definitely
Yes.
comes with being self-assured and self-belief in yourself. So, Derval, when you face confidence issues, how do you navigate them and get out of that vicious cycle?
Oh, the the infamous imposter syndrome is so real. But again, I come back to myself. I know myself best. I know
Yes.
my strengths. I know my weaknesses, and I think I just remind myself of some of the things that I have done, and also I have a lot of faith. I come back to my faith in God, and that also helps me to really dig deep and push through the noise. I think a big part of that lack of confidence is also fear.
Right.
And
Yes.
when you face those fears, not that they would instantly go away, but you're better able to treat with them, to do it afraid. And I think that is what has taken me throughout my journey, doing it afraid. Feel the fear and do
Yeah.
it anyway.
Anyway, yes. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I think it's being mindful, being self-aware,
Yeah.
being mindful, and having that faith,
Right.
faith over fear,
Yeah.
to really push towards the goals that you have set for yourself.
Excellent. And you answered a couple of questions there for me. So thanks very much. So Derval, share with us a success quote or mantra that you use and why it's meaningful to you.
Sure. So, I mean, I have encountered many of those quotes that, really get you fired up. But one that sticks with me is what was said at my high school graduation many, many years ago. And the speaker said that excellence is an attainable goal. And that has really impacted me. It actually led me to, when I was at university, to push to graduate with first class honors.
Okay.
And it meant a lot to me, but also meant a lot to, my family, being the first in my immediate family to attend university, and I wanted to really, it was to represent and also to a bit of gratitude for their support as well. So of course they were really proud. But yeah, that mantra really keeps me going because sometimes you may, for whatever reason, it may be challenges, it may be your personal issues. You might just feel like, okay, I could just do the bare minimum and get by. Or maybe the persons in your environment are just doing the bare minimum, or they're okay with that mediocre life.
Yes.
Or they say, you should be content. But there's something in you that maybe you may have a vision of yourself that is beyond what is in your immediate surroundings, or what beyond the box that other people place you in. But if you believe that excellence is an attainable goal, you will pursue it. And so that is the approach I take in life. I mean, not everything you pursue is something that you want to be the best at, but there are certain things that really trigger that in you, and you want to give it your best.
Yes.
So that has been very valuable source of inspiration for me.
Excellent. I love that. So Derval, what advice, I'm going to cast your mind back a little bit more again. What advice would you give to your teenage self?
Teenage self. I feel like being a teenager is such a weird time. And but in hindsight, I would say be comfortable being you, being your authentic self.
Yeah.
I think you spend a lot of the time trying to fit a mold or fit what either the media or society tells you should be, instead of really kind of going inward and basking in who you are, right? And celebrating that. You spend so much time trying to not be who you are.
Yeah.
Where instead, I think you should just embrace your uniqueness, embrace your authentic self. And because another quote that comes to mind, the world doesn't need carbon copies of anything.
Yeah.
Right? You are put here. I would tell myself that you are put here with a purpose. You are beautiful and you are capable, and just go for it.
Yeah. And I love what you said there about being who you are, but there are still so many women that have that inner fight because they're still trying to be something that's not naturally them. And I always tell them, look, it's so much more hard work trying to be something you're not. Put all that energy put all that energy into who you are. Look how far you could go. So yeah, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. So Derval, if you could choose your own mentor, we touched on mentorship earlier, but if you could choose anyone to be your mentor, who would it be and why?
Wow, that's a tough one. Because there's not one particular person that I idolize. I kind of pull inspiration from a lot of different people. But if I had to choose, wow, this this is a tough one. I I really admire two persons that I really admire currently would be the current VP in the US, Ms. Kamala Harris,
Yeah.
and also Ms. Michelle Obama.
Okay.
So I think I can learn a lot from them and navigating and doing things that people tell you you can't do, which they have both done. So I think I admire that about them, and I would love to hear, maybe some intimate details about how they navigated those challenges.
Right, right. Thank you for that. So yeah, you give yourself some lofty mentors there. But great. So Derval, what three things have you learned about yourself during your career?
Three things I've learned about myself. One, I always say I'm very resilient.
Okay.
And you only know how resilient you are when you face challenges.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. True, true, very true, very true.
So my resilience is, I think, one of my best attributes. My creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of finding solutions, and also I've always had a creative side, whether it's creative writing or drawing on the walls as a child. And I even spent a couple of years as a makeup artist. So I always need that creative outlet.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess the podcast is that for me now.
Right, right.
And I think that I'm a visionary.
Right.
So
Okay.
I always have, even if the current reality is one way, in my mind, I can see so many possibilities, and I will indulge in those possibilities. So I think those are three things that I have learned about myself along the way, and they have served me well.
And if you had to choose one to keep, and you had to get rid of two, which one would it be?
Wow. I'll say my resilience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
I just threw that in because I just wanted to hear your answer. So we're coming down to our last couple of questions, Derval. So where would we find you typically on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m.?
Oh, it depends. Every Saturday is different. Occasionally, you can find me in my backyard. I have a kitchen garden that I recently restarted.
We could live.
So,
we could live. That's what I was going after. Yeah, so we could live.
Yeah, or you could find me maybe organizing to record a podcast.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And tell us a little bit more about the podcast.
Sure. So the Climate Conscious podcast, I actually celebrated 1 year, April 22nd. So I started in April 2020 during the heights of the pandemic, when most of the world was in lockdown. So I had a bit more time to really devote to getting it started. And I'm an avid podcast listener. At least I was before I started doing podcasts myself, because now I don't have as much time. But I really enjoy the medium,
Yes.
either to just relax or even to learn something meaningful. And as part of the Women in Renewable Energy Network mentorship program, you were required to do a call to action. And I know I wanted to do something in awareness around sustainability. So I decided to do a podcast.
Right.
And tap into my network to interview people, because I didn't want to do one where it was just me speaking, because I feel like that would not have been sustainable. So I started the podcast to bring awareness to sustainability issues, but also to amplify Caribbean voices, because I felt that we were very underrepresented in the sustainability space.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Although we were, in the front line of some of the major impacts, such as climate change. So I wanted to highlight, firstly, the challenges of sustainability, such as climate change, but also the solutions and what we can do both as individuals and as a collective to address the situation, this urgent situation. So it features interviews with different persons from different spaces in terms of, academia, industry, civil society, exploring various elements of sustainable development. And again, with a particular focus on the Caribbean and small island developing states. So while I may feature persons from North America and Europe, I always like to show how their strategies or actions can be, tailored or implemented in our region to assist us in, moving forward to that sustainable future.
Yeah, excellent. And where can we find the podcast?
So the podcast is available on most podcast apps, on your favorite podcast network, Apple, Google, Spotify, and it can also be accessed through the website, theclimateconscious.com.
Excellent. So my last official question is, for Derval, what does success feel like to you?
Success to me is something called your ikigai, which is a Japanese phrase, and I apologize in advance for not defining it properly, but it's the nexus of your passion and your skill and your mission, and it's just finding that sweet spot where you're able to make an impact and you're able to live a comfortable life,
right?
And you're happy with it. You're happy with the impact that you're having. You're happy with the life you're able to build for yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the goal I am seeking as well, to really to exist in that space. And because I think I'm sure that sustainability is my ikigai. So it's just I guess building it out.
Excellent. So that was my last official question, Derval. So thank you so much for answering my questions so openly. And if persons want to get connect with you or get to know more about what you do, how can they do that?
Sure, they can certainly reach out to me on the major social media apps. I'm on LinkedIn, Derval Barzey, Instagram and Facebook at The Climate Conscious. As I mentioned, the website, theclimateconscious.com. So feel free to reach out to me on any of those options.
Excellent. So I'll be sure to put all those links in the show notes. So Derval, thank you so much for joining me today on This Woman Can.
Thank you, Janice. I enjoyed our conversation.
Excellent. Thank you. Career reinvention, I've been there and I get it. And I want success for you. Are you exploring a career pivot to find more fulfillment? Are you thinking of returning to work after a career break? Are you emerging from a personal life transition? But maybe you're fuzzy about what you actually want to be doing or how to close the gap between your now and your next. You could even be frustrated about change, both the kind that's happening physically and the kind that isn't. Scared you have more to look back on than forward to. Or you could even be frenzied by so much responsibility, the kids, the partners, that you are floundering as you seek to find greater contribution in the world. You might be wondering, is this as good as it gets? Well, I'm here to tell you, no. There's a way forward and it's really exciting. Your next career chapter is an intensive, hands-on, 12-week live program that will walk you through a proven step-by-step process to help you get clear on your goals so you stop wasting time in the haze, removing the blocks, and start creating a solid picture of what a vibrant, energized career looks like for you. Helps you create practical, easy to implement action steps by identifying where you want to go and the how to get there. So that becomes totally apparent and doable. And you access expert guidance because I am here to help you every step of the way. For more information, visit janicesutherland.com for details on how to join a program that will help you turn your mid-career crisis into your mid-career success.